Alright, so I just got home from The Rise of Skywalker. I have a lot of things to say, so I'm going to get straight into the video. If you guys have not seen the movie yet, please do not continue watching because I'm going to give a review on it and I'm going to give my opinions, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you guys don't want to get spoiled, please stop watching now. I'm going to give you a few seconds to leave, starting now. Alright, so if you're still here, then you obviously do not care about being spoiled. So I'm going to get right into this. Now, this is going to be all over the place. I'm just going to explain a lot of things I liked and I didn't like. And I'm just going to go over a lot. And then at the end, I'm going to give you my overall opinion on the movie and just my final thoughts. So the first thing I want to talk about is Kylo Ren, Ben Solo. Depending on what part of the movie we're watching, we'll refer to him differently. But this character is the MVP of this movie to me, and I'm going to explain to you why. So he had the most character development, he had the best fight scenes, and his heroic sacrifice at the end was truly unexpected and amazing at the same time. Now, big thing for me is I was never a Kylo fan. I didn't hate Kylo, but I thought he was a brat, he was super annoying, and he was like a knockoff, bad version of Darth Vader. In this movie, even from the beginning, he just had a different tempo and vibe about him, and just instantly I enjoyed the character a lot more. Now, we got teased like a week or two ago that Palpatine was kind of manipulating him all along, and you've seen him going down into his lair in Exegol in the trailer that came out like a week or two ago. So I thought that Kylo was just gonna be, he's the supreme leader of the First Order, and he was going to go and just be Palpatine's apprentice and let him continue pulling the strings. But straight from the beginning, when he met Palpatine, his plan was to kill him with Rey, overthrow him, and rule the galaxy with her, which I really appreciated because, like I said, I thought originally he was just, going to bend over and be Palpatine's puppet. But from the beginning, he stood his ground and he threw that curveball there, which I really appreciated. Now, Kylo, after that, his whole goal was to find Rey, let her know about her lineage, and get her to the dark side with him and defeat Palpatine to rule the galaxy. Now, he spent a lot of the movie doing that, and then obviously we all loved the fight scene on the remains of the Death Star when Rey was just fought her dark side self and seen the throne and got her own Sith Wayfinder. When that happened and Rey killed Kylo at first, I was like, bro, this character finally got good and then these guys are gonna kill him off. She heals him right after Leia's sacrifice, which I thought was amazing. That whole just moment of all that together was really powerful and I really enjoyed it. And then when Han came back and talked to him, bro, the feels were amazing. And honestly, just like I said, I just think this character, the amount of character development and how important he was to the story in just, getting the reviving of Palpatine, to telling Rey her lineage, to, coming back to the light side, Leia pretty much sacrificing herself to save Kylo, to bring him back to being Ben, and then Ben and Rey fighting Palpatine, him bringing Rey back and sacrificing himself, just all of that. GOAT performance. Adam Driver did a great job with the character as well. All of the actors, I just think they acted really well, which is not typical of a Star Wars movie. I think Star Wars generally does not have the best acting. I will say the sequel trilogy definitely had the best acting out of the whole franchise, because the acting is pretty cheesy in both the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. All right, moving on. Rey as a character I'm going to talk about. Now, I'm very happy her lineage was what it was, because before we thought her parents were nobody and she was just, her base power was super strong for no reason, and we finally got the backstory that her father was Palpatine's son, making Palpatine her grandfather and giving her, that blood, the Palpatine blood. So it at least answers our question and makes it a little bit better that she's so freaking strong for a reason, at least her base power. Now, what I don't like is how she basically essentially became the GOAT of the Jedi. All the Jedis lived in her. pretty much, they gave her the power, and she finally defeated the evil Sith and Palpatine for the second time. Now, I only don't like this because I've been told forever about Anakin, which I'm going to get into later, and the fact that I feel like she did not train that hard. Like, in the beginning of this movie, she could not focus correctly. She was literally getting smacked up by the training droids that were shooting her left and right. She's been struggling, and overall, I feel like she just has not paid her dues, essentially, to be as strong as she is. I don't care what blood you have in you or what lineage you have. Like, Anakin, as a 6-year-old boy, legitimately had, more midichlorians and was stronger with the Force than Yoda. And Yoda was like, 900 years old at the time. Anakin was a 6-year-old boy. Yoda trained for years and years and years, and Anakin was 6 years old, but he still had to train until he was, from a small boy into a man to become a Jedi Knight and to become very strong. So I don't like what they did with Rey there. I feel like it was super rushed. It's the movie in general, but overall, I like Rey's character. Daisy really did a great job. I just have a few bones to pick, and I'm going to get into the rest later. The second best thing in this movie to me was righting the wrongs of the character of Luke Skywalker. Now, if you know anything about what George Lucas had to, what he planned for episode 7, 8, and 9, Luke's character definitely was going through a lot of things, and there's a lot of turmoil and some darkness flowing in him. But the way they depicted him in episode 8 was disrespectful. It was not the character of Luke Skywalker. I don't know what that was, but they definitely gave Luke some justice in this. That scene where Rey tried to throw her lightsaber into like the TIE fighter that was on fire, Kylo's TIE fighter, and he saves it, has that pep talk with her, gives her Leia's lightsaber, and then lifts up the X-Wing and like basically tells her that he was wrong for going on this island. You're not going to come here and just live out your life like I did. I made a mistake. I messed up. Like, I'm trash, and you need to go be strong, and I'm going to make sure you do it because, I've been through this, and this is a terrible idea, and this should never have happened. So the way they kind of just rewrote his character, kind of making like Luke be the driving force that got Rey so motivated to go, and it's him lifting up that X-Wing, saving a lightsaber and giving her Rey's lightsaber, and obviously at the end, and just being a part of the ghosts that talk to Rey as Jedi. Obviously, I think Luke was just redeemed in a lot of ways. Just makes me want to just act like episode 8 did not happen whatsoever. But yeah, I really like what they did with kind of redeeming Luke and bringing, Luke back as a character. Now, Leia in this movie was so pivotal, and it's crazy that, rest in peace to Carrie Fisher, amazing actress, and just so pivotal in the Star Wars films. The fact that she was not here with us to even make this movie, they got a lot of stuff from previous work that she did, but overall, just the character of Leia was amazing. Her becoming a Jedi and training with Luke, I really enjoyed that. Even though it was CGI, it was really cool to watch. Her basically sacrificing herself to bring Ben back and destroy Kylo Ren once and for all was super awesome. I really liked that, and just the fact that Leia was like the driving force and like the hope in everyone. Like, Luke kind of tarnished himself, and even though he did redeem himself in this movie, Leia is the one character that really didn't tarnish herself, and they really didn't ruin in Star Wars. And for her to be the driving force to really motivate Rey to bring back Ben and sacrifice herself for him, and then when she passed away, everyone used her spirit to go fight, even though they were heavily outnumbered. That was super awesome. And when Kylo was talking to Han Solo on the remains of the Death Star after Rey revived him and left, I'm pretty sure that was Leia's doing as well, which if it is, that would be super amazing. I'm pretty sure we're going to find out eventually. Obviously, Han was not a Force ghost. He did not have that aura around him. It literally looked exactly like Han. So I think Leia was pulling some strings and was acting as Han and talking to Kylo, and that overall set him to come back to Ben Solo and he threw his lightsaber away. I think that was super powerful, and just, you know, her knowing that Rey was a Palpatine along with Luke and still training her, that really, when she found that out, when Rey found that out, that really like motivated her as well. So Leia was just like kind of like the heart and the backbone of this whole story, and I really appreciate that, because Leia, like I said, was the one character that wasn't tarnished. She is a Skywalker, and she's obviously super pivotal to just this franchise as a whole, so that's super awesome. Now, Palpatine's return I want to talk about, because I was actually super skeptical about it at first. I thought it was super cheesy. I did not like it, but seeing the movie, I think they did a really good job with Palpatine. Ian McDiarmid obviously has been Palpatine pretty much the whole time. We don't talk about who, like that little depiction we got of Palpatine before Ian McDiarmid took the reins over in episode 6. But I really think they made the character badass. He was super ugly, which was super cool, because, you know, he was like reborn. He was dead and he became back alive. I think they made him like super OP, like all the Sith lived in him and all the Jedi lived in Rey. I really like how they incorporated his story in here. He was kind of pulling the strings the whole time. At first, he was not able to really do much. He was like hooked up to all that stuff, almost like Anakin was after he got defeated by Obi-Wan on Mustafar. And the fact that they tied in like that special force connection that Rey and Kylo had, or Rey and Ben had, to kind of bring him back to life and to make him not like require all the medical assistance. He pretty much just drained their life and gave it to himself, which is obviously a Sith ability. I think they tied it all really in well together, and just the fact that they had all these Sith artifacts throughout the whole movies, and the fact that they brought Palpatine back and did a good job with it, I think it really blends it in really well together. And it doesn't seem like it was a forced thing that they thought of like last minute. It seems that it was planned from the beginning, so I think they did a really good job. Now, in this movie, we got Poe's backstory, which was super cool. I really like that whole scene. We kind of got the Knights of Ren for the first time. We got you know, C-3PO getting hacked and, you know, getting that Sith message out. We got to see kind of who Poe was before he's with the Resistance. We got to see who presumably seems to be like the love of his life introduced, and just kind of like his crew beforehand, which I thought was super cool, because we didn't have too much backstory about Poe, and they did a good job with it. Finn finding, you know, the other converted stormtroopers, I think it was super cool, and how the fact that, you know, the converted stormtroopers did so much to destroy the rebellion, I thought was really cool. So, and just Finn overall, like being confirmed, like, you know, having abilities of the Force and being able to feel things, and kind of just being really one with the Force. We kind of expected he had it in him, but they really did a good job of incorporating that and just building on this character. I think I really like all the new characters. Only character I didn't really like was Kylo before, but like I said, in this movie it redeemed him and just made him super cool. So I think they also did a really good job with Lando Calrissian, and, you know, kind of Chewie as well. Like Chewie at one point was pretty much like the last of the original heroes that was still alive, and there's just so much turmoil and grief in him. And I think Lando being like with him and just being incorporated in the story really well really made that really nice for Chewie, and just overall added a lot of depth to the story. And I just think so much fan service they did was really good. I think they kind of went overboard on it a little too much, but there's so many really good references, and I think they incorporated a lot of characters from before that they brought in, and just rewriting a lot of the wrongs that they did to previous characters in this movie just were such nice and needed touches. Now, I praise the movie a lot, but I want to talk about the biggest tragedy this movie did. If this movie would have done one thing differently, this movie could have been so much better. And that is Anakin Skywalker and how he should have been incorporated in. Anakin should have had a bigger role with having the Jedi defeat the Sith, or just being a part of this story. Now, obviously, his kids were pretty much like the driving force of this story. So, I mean, in a way, he's still involved. And obviously, we got a few lines from Hayden Christensen about telling Rey to bring back a balance to the Force as he did. So, it wasn't like, the way they tried to incorporate it wasn't like Anakin like was a sacrifice and he didn't do anything. He did bring balance to the Force, but balance will only be restored for so long, right? Balance to the Force doesn't mean that it's forever going to be purified and, there's going to be balance to it. Obviously, a lot of time has passed. It's been like, 20, 30 years, something like that, since Anakin's sacrifice, and he brought balance to the Force. So it wasn't that much time, but he did bring balance to the Force, technically. But I feel like he should just had a bigger involvement in this. He is the original Skywalker. On top of that, I just feel like if they would have incorporated his Force Ghost at the end when, Ben and Rey were fighting Palpatine, and just had more of a driving force when Rey was talking to all the Jedi, if they would have incorporated him in that way and just gave him like some screen time and, like I said, just made him more important to the conclusion of the saga, I think this movie would have been so much better. I already give this movie like a 7 or 8 out of 10. It would have been like a 9 out of 10 if they would have incorporated Anakin and pretty much didn't like replace him with Rey to a certain extent. And I just think George Lucas confirmed in the Clone Wars that he was the chosen one with the tests he had to do. And man, I just, like I said, like we've been told that this is Anakin's story. He is the chosen one so many times by George, and that is like canon. Literally, episodes 1 through 6 are all about Anakin's story, and he had like little to nothing in the sequel trilogy. And this is still the Skywalker saga. This is the end of the Skywalker saga, and the Skywalker had like pretty much nothing to do with it. So obviously, remnants of him are inside Luke and Leia, and obviously, he was a driving force to motivate Kylo, but still not enough. Now, my overall opinion of this movie, like I said, I give it like an 8 out of 10. The critics slammed it pretty hard, and I don't think that was entirely fair. I think this movie did a lot of really good, and it had a really uphill battle to fight, and I don't think it completely got over the hill, but it made a dent in everything it had to do. So I think J.J. Abrams did the best he could in the situation. I think the acting was really good. I think there's so many plot twists and turns and things I didn't expect, things I expected and wished happened that did come true. And besides the fact with Anakin, I really enjoyed what they did with this movie. Like I said, I think it should have been longer, but you can't make this a 5-hour film. Like, it was never gonna fly if they try to do something like that. So I think the movie was good. At the end of the day, though, I have to slightly view this different from George's story. Like, I cannot consider this like completely canon. It seems like it was a fan fiction that was really good, but it's just, there's certain things about this sequel trilogy that just literally go against what George Lucas, the groundwork he laid for the sequel trilogy. But I do think the story that they told is really good. I enjoy a lot of the characters. I think story-wise is good. The Last Jedi, I don't care for, and if it didn't exist, I wouldn't be upset. But The Force Awakens was pretty good, and The Rise of Skywalker was a great movie. Like 8 out of 10. Force Awakens was like a 7 out of 10. The Last Jedi was like a 4 or 5 out of 10. So overall, like I said, good movie. I recommend it to anyone that hasn't seen it. If you haven't seen it and I pretty much spoiled it for you, I would still recommend you watching it. I'm going to watch it more. Man, it's still a lot to take in. Like, I just got back. Like, it's 3:45 in the morning now. I got back at 2:30 because I had like basically a midnight showing. So yeah, I worked an 8-hour shift too, so my mind is just fried. There's so many things going on in my head, but I explained a lot of things I wanted to explain. I gave like an overall review and what I really enjoyed and didn't like. I gave just my overall opinion on the movie. So thank you guys for tuning in, and as always, may the Force be with you.